Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode on the C podcast. Today we have Mr. Sachin Desai, who is the director of Dingley. He is responsible for the Indian operations as well as the entire SAARC countries. We are going to talk about aerial walk platform concept in India. Dingley is one of the major players in the world operations across the world. I think they are now focusing on the Indian market as well as the SAARC market. To learn more about this topic about aerial walk platform and all related uh, subject, we have Mr. Sachin Desai. Mr. Sachin, thank you so much to be part of our conversation today.
Thank you, Mr. Ajit. It's been a privilege and an honor to share some thoughts with you.
Thank you so much. To start our conversation, obviously, I would like to take us through your journey first.
First of all, again, thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast. And about me, I would like to bring in a few points or some information that will also take me back to some good old days of my career. After my post graduation, I began with a rental company in India, which actually rented out machines of AWP pan India. So that's how I began my career. I was there for a short stint, and then I had a major part of my career in terms of the forest and garden divisions and also the agriculture part of it with two other companies of Honda and Husqvarna. Uh, my expertise has been in appointing network for business expansion, some strategic partnerships which enhance business and brand presence for the organizations in India as well as the sub countries. So, having that background, Dingley was the opportunity that knocked my door. Though I had a small stint earlier, but I knew the products well, backed up with my expertise in dealer network appointment and brand building. I did take it up, and so far it's been a journey in itself, and I look forward for more in the future
That's
years to come.
great, great. Uh, AWPs as a concept, I think, is not very well known amongst many people, especially in the construction equipment space. We'll start our conversation from the basic to understand what is the sense of the market size. I mean, how many these units are working in India, and what is the breakup of those units in terms of used, new, and how many of these units come into India or to the Indian market every year?
Mr. J, I would want to draw the attention of the listeners here by saying this. It's very important for us to look around and see that there is an AWP requirement around us, just right next to the place that you're staying, or at an apartment that you're staying, where there is a requirement of men working at heights. So it could be a shopping mall that you're visiting. It could be your office, which is located at a corporate space, which requires glass cleaning. And there are people still working on suspended work platforms and scaffolding being currently used. So that is where the market really needs to be helped, and also bringing in those understanding as to why human safety is very important. This again, industry is going through a journey in itself. A lot of people now realize the requirement of safety, but yes, there is a lot more that we could do to help organizations or people work at heights at utmost safer levels. Coming to your question on what is the industry or the market size or the number of machines that are running, considering the last 10 years as I can't say a lifespan, but yes, the working requirements of the machine, I think around 6,500 machines are currently being used in the country. Uh, by saying 6,500 machines, these are within the span of 10 years of usage time. and out of which about 30% of them are new and 70% of them are old that are imported from various countries across the globe. Also, the captive use of it is around 20%, where usually the customers buy in the machines for their own end use and maintenance. Most of it is currently trending towards the rental portion of it is about 80%. So there are a lot of infrastructure projects, construction, maintenance, whatnot, where people still look at renting machines out. And there are many large companies who own large fleets who render customer service through their rental business.
Okay, so as you mentioned, captive use is just 20% and rental is basically 80%. So which clearly means that I'm just thinking loud. I mean, if there is a customer who has got a set of, let's say, backhoe loaders, a JCB backhoe loader, let's say, and he's planning to expand further in terms of looking at what else can be added into the fleet. This could be a very complementing product in terms of, I mean, the customer can actually rent these machines out to any kind of applications in the market. Is it a correct sense of understanding this renting, or do you think these rental companies are actually completely different and they have a different type of approach to the market?
It absolutely is. I have a perception, or I can put it across this way, saying that it is a requirement now to have AWPs present very close by to the customer. As you rightly said, these rental companies have in the market from a very, very long time, and they have their own expertise, their own customer base, the way they all run their own businesses, the kind of customer value that they add to the customers that they deal with is totally uh, an understanding in itself. But having said that, like the way you compared the allied products that also have or share the same kind of a customer database will help in building that understanding at the customer levels. Because only when a customer sees what this is and when we're able to demonstrate how safe it is, only then we progress further in this aspect.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at any customer who is buying to rent out any machine, whether it is a backhoe loader or an excavator or compactor or wheel loading shovel, anything. So obviously they look at in terms of what is their initial investment and whether they are able to get the return in a suitable time. I mean, so that's a whole business model. So if this concept of use of these machines are so obvious that the availability itself will make it possible for the rental companies, small rental players, individual players also. I think that could really trigger a good expansion mode for this particular industry. I mean, I don't know how much of that is being thought about. I'm just thinking loud from an outsider point of view.
You're right. Because if I just have to mention two major points that are triggering the industry in the next 5 years to come, as a short span, if we can talk about, is the big infrastructure boost that everybody is anticipating now, large projects taking shape. The second thing is the requirement of safety at each of these projects that are being handled. So, with that safety requirement coming into place and the quicker requirement of to finish up infrastructure projects is actually the kind of an industry trend we are trying to look forward in the next 5 years to come. As you rightly said, I think that is the way that is going to set the industry a trend where working at height becomes an absolute norm.
Okay. Now, just to understand a little more about the industry, what are the broad categories in terms of the AWP's products which are in India?
Okay, broadly, we classify that into three. One is called the boom lifts or the cherry pickers. Second is the vertical lifts, and third is called the scissor lifts. So in boom lifts, there are two types. One is a self-propelled one, and the others are on truck-mounted and spider. But mostly scissor lifts and vertical lifts, you have the option of both self-propelled and push-around types. So broadly, we categorize this into the kind of a customer segment that we are providing products to.
Okay. And what is the sense of the, I mean, if the whole market can be broken down into 100 pieces, how each of these three segments contribute in terms of the pie?
Um, that's a little difficult to segregate because it depends on the utilization and it depends on the working height that the customer wants to reach. So if it's a very large heights, if you have to reach say about more than about 30 to 32 meters and above, you usually go in for a boom lift. But yes, that does not mean that there are not boom lifts are not available at lower heights. But it again depends upon the terrain. There is a module in itself which actually talks about how do you select your AWP.
Okay.
So it's again a topic in itself because for a customer or a layman who does not know, we try and understand a few questions, just like what is the terrain, what is the space that is available for the movement of the machine, what is the requirement of the prime mover, is it battery, diesel, or hybrid, what is the working height that is required for the machine, how many number of men actually need to go up at the working height. So these are certain questions that we pose to the customer, and upon understanding that, we kind of suggest models to them. So if I have to put it in a nutshell, it actually completely depends on the customer's requirement. And most of it actually shares a common, both, all three of them share a common customer base because maintenance, repairs, heights almost remains the same for each of these products. But if I have to give you distinct answers to the each of the three segments, I could say boom lifts is majorly used in construction where it's pre-engineered buildings, erection at large heights. Scissor lifts is majorly indoors where there is a piping or an electrical requirement. It could be in shipping yards where again boom lift shares its application in itself, but yes, where there is two or more men required on a scissor lift where you can move up and get the work done. Vertical lifts are relatively smaller in size, which finds its application in shopping malls, in warehouses, in event management companies, the hospitality industry is where I could give you a distinct classification of the customer base for these three products.
Okay. So the boom lift you mentioned is basically meant for the construction sector, which also means that it could actually share a lot of its work with respect to the pick and carry crane and possibly to some extent also the telehandler. Is there a kind of a shared space in which these three machines operate?
Yes, because if you talk about the pick and carry cranes, the crane actually delivers the material to you on the top,
Hmm.
whereas the boom lift carries the man on top, where he stands on the platform and erects what that crane is currently supplying to him as a material. For
Okay.
example, if there's an iron bar that needs to be erected at say about a 120 feet height, there is a crane or another setup that brings the iron bar to that height. But fixing that onto the two columns or the beams, there is an AWP required for men to stand on it and get that fixed.
So typically the payload capacity of a AWP is limited to basically carrying man on top to a height and possibly along with that some instrument or equipment along with that.
Yes, there is something that describes this as per the global standards. We call it as a safe working load. So it is men and few. equipments that can go along with it. So there's a set load on the machine which cannot be bypassed to carry any material or extensive men on.
Okay, moving on, let's try and understand how the applications in India are where the AWPs are being used. I know, I mean, anywhere height is required, possibly it is there, but what is your sense from being in the industry of where are the different major applications where AWPs are getting sold or utilized?
Okay, currently for us, it's majorly been uh, construction. Okay, when it comes to the bigger products like boom lifts. But yes, there's a lot of maintenance that is required across all the industries being set. If you name it, we have a customer that requires AWP there, like the oil and gas. It could be the power. It could be entertainment. Also, interestingly, we also have aviation companies that require this. Most of it is the airports where the erection and the terminals coming up, the kind of infrastructure boom that is related to the aviation industry is actually aiding a lot of AWP requirements as well. So as I said, if it's the outdoor in the airport, you will find major boom lifts at all major airports. There's a new terminal coming up. But whereas even if it's an older terminal or any other maintenance that is required, you'll majorly find scissor lifts working at heights. So it's also, again, as I told you, the infrastructure boost, the kind of development that is happening in these sectors. Also, there are important community operations that is required. For example, fixing of glass at height. There are specialized machines which carries the glass on top on a boom lift. You use another boom lift where man goes up, again fixes the glass and then comes down. So these are kind of community services, glass cleaning, facade fixing, and these kind of applications also come under the applications for AWP. Interestingly, even mining also requires where there's mining and there is an erection that needs to be done there, or a construction or a maintenance in mining sites where rough terrain tires are required. Boom lifts also find their application there. So as I told you, the major segments I've already mentioned, but yes, there are smaller ones which are currently slightly developing. If you see, the major shopping malls now have AWPs to clean their glasses. If you take major warehouses where there is warehousing, they also have order pickers and vertical lifts where one person goes on top, checks the stock, or if there needs to be something brought down on a smaller scale, he goes up, picks the box, and comes back. So these are kind of applications that are slowly now taking pace, and where people are able to understand, the market is able to understand that yes, working at height is important, safety is very important, and then it also makes it faster. The reach becomes very easy to access. Heights now don't matter. So that's where it's been very promising for us in terms of the applications for AWP here in India.
Fantastic. So as we see, you mentioned about 6,500 plus units are in operation right now, which are like 10-year span. And on an average, about 800 to 1,000 units possibly make their way into the market, both domestically made as well as possibly the imported ones. Obviously, I think a large part of it is still imported, is what I get a sense of it. Um,
Yes.
so as we move along, and safety becomes a very important criteria. I think it is more and more becoming a very important criteria. And also coupled with that, I think there's a scarcity in terms of the manual labor who would actually, climb on a scaffolding. Uh, there's enormous amount of opportunity with respect to the growth this particular industry is going to witness in the years to come. But what are your main sense of two, three growth factors which are really fueling this growth in this particular industry?
Mr. Ji, I did mention these two. According to me, the infrastructure boost that India is now seeing and the rapid development that is happening towards building that kind of an economy is actually fueling a lot of requirement for AWPs. If you see the standards at which airports are made, anybody needs to be taken aback. We are no less than any international airports that are there, and we have one international airport at every major city in India. So you name it Bangalore, you name it Hyderabad, you name it Delhi, Mumbai, all these airports have been built at, I can say, beyond international standards, where people coming into the airport say, this is something that we really had to see what India had to do. So that's the kind of infrastructure boost that we see. Large scale projects coming in, industries expanding themselves, the kind of government support at state levels and central levels that industries see to set up their plants, to expand their plants. So that's something that is fueling the economy again, which is a repercussion on our line of industry where these products become more and more required because the timeline now becomes more important in getting those jobs done. And with reach becoming so easy with AWP, now everybody wants to have that machine which takes men to the height, quickly finish those jobs, make it safe, foolproof, and then bring men safely back down. The second thing that is required, the kind of boost that we are looking at is the kind of awareness and requirement for human safety. Standards coming in, companies being responsible for the kind of men they employ, the kind of people that they train, and respecting human life, reducing the number of injuries. So all that is actually fueling the requirement for AWP for us, because it is extremely critical, because with these kind of setups really required, because men working at height is a big challenge. And even when you are on a platform, you really need to be careful, and there is no scope of error. A slight mistake could cost life. So that's the kind of threat that working at height poses. So since AWPs address that, so most of the projects, most of the MNCs coming here in India, most of the large construction companies in India are looking forward for deploying AWPs at all their sites. So this is giving us a hope and a promise that I think in the next 5 years we see business growing.
Okay, and would you like to give a number to that actually? I mean, if from a level of about 800,000 units a year, how do you see that panning out in terms of numbers? Are we looking at that growing to a level of 5,000 units per year, or how do you see it?
My knowledge concern to this says that now, with the progress that we are currently having, we are here to stay with both rental companies as well as the end customer buying AWP. So it's currently a mix of both, and it is here to continue. It will happen that most rental companies will provide AWPs which are required for a certain period of time, which by and large their own definition of a short term and a long term supply. Each one of them has their own utilization rate to understand how much of it as a machine fleet they need to own. But yes, in terms of purchase of the machines also, if there are requirements for larger companies and MNCs that purchase, I think the growth is going to be in an equal manner. I don't see it varying in any ways. But in the next 5 years to come, from this 6,500 existing machines, according to me, there should be at least around 12,000 to 12,500 machines currently employed in India, considering the kind of infrastructure boost we are seeing in the next 2 3 years to come.
Okay, so basically you're predicting doubling, almost doubling of the numbers from the current level of total number of
Current at the
operations.
next 5 to 7 years as a
Okay.
horizon.
Right. So now coming on to your organization, I mean, tell us about Dingley. A lot is to be learned about this organization.
Okay. Dingley is an organization that started in 2005, and in 2022, we are the third top three manufacturers of AWP across the globe. Our major markets being again the US and the Europe, but the R&D centers are at Italy and Germany because there are investment made in Magni, another AWP manufacturing Italian organization, and Topin in Germany. So most of our products are designed in Germany and Italy, but yes, manufactured in a factory 4.0 stage setup at China. We supply across the globe. So also Dingley products are ANSI certified and CE certified. But yes, whichever country has its own standards for these, we are certified in most of these countries. And surprisingly and fortunately, Dingley has also participated in formulation of 16 national standards across the world. So it also makes us a major contributor to the industry. So as I already told you that there is a significant investment that the company is doing in terms of the R&D, making it very, very strong because Dingley only manufactures AWP. So in simple language, that's the only bread and butter for the company. The entire profit center for the company lies in making AWPs. So that's why you will see Dingley machines very technologically advanced, very strong in technology, which also brings in that kind of an involvement into the industry that is required as on today.
Fantastic. Just to take a couple of points from here, you mentioned about being the organization involved in terms of setting up the safety standard for different countries, which you have done it already in other part of the world. So, in a way, are you also driving something for the Indian market or the SAARC countries also in terms of setting up the safety standards? That's one. And number two, you mentioned about innovative products. Can you give some live examples of what exactly you mean by innovative products in terms of how do you differentiate with the really the market available products versus Tingley?
Addressing your point number one of setting up industry standards in India, yes, there are some baby steps being taken because by and large, everything needs to be done from scratch in India, and it's a different market all totally for us. So small efforts are being made, which we will eventually uh, get to in the years to come. Addressing your point of the innovativeness in the products that we have, our product, we have obtained about 300 patents for the entire product line of Dingley. A few things that I should quickly mention to all the listeners is that unlike every other, all our products come in closed containers in the seas. So there is a technology called the in situ axle technology in the larger boom lifts where the axle folds itself inside, and then the platform on top has a 270-degree rotation, and then it completely gets fixed into the container. This is not only for the ease of transportation, but it is also for the ease of maneuverability in narrow spaces where the requirement of the height is more and you have a very narrow space to park the boom lift. Also, we have certain patents on the material that is used in the products, which is a special steel, Q960 steel, which is actually a very thin material if you look at as a metal, but has very, very high strength in carrying the weight that goes on to the top at heights. So these are a couple of patents that I could talk about. It's there, but yes, uh, since I belong to the organization, I would love to talk about the product all day long. But yes, there is a lot of technology and a lot of R&D that is being pumped into these products to make it highly advanced as an offering to our customer. So that's exactly why I said that there has been efforts to stay on the top, and the growth for the organization has been very, very strong in the last couple of years.
Fantastic. Now, tell us briefly about your Indian operations and your plans for the future of the Indian operations.
As I already mentioned in the due course of my time with you, there has been extensive work done across countries, across the globe, in bringing a lot of standards, giving out the best quality, latest technology products. Now we intend to bring our focus on the SAARC countries, because now, as you know, the world is talking about India. Every organization outside India now wants to have a business deal with India and also offer its products and offerings to the customers here in India, because it's a large market in itself. So, with that thought in mind, we also have our office set up at Chennai, that being close to the port, and from here we also uh, contribute to the product requirements in the SAARC countries. And to the other eight countries of the SAARC, which becomes more a viable and a strategic location for us to reach out to. And in the few years to come, we are working really hard and striving diligently to make Dingley a preferred brand in the SAARC countries, and India as well being the largest of the SAARC countries, by adding value to the businesses of our channel partners, who indeed will help us bring out that customer on through the customers who buy our products. So we are trying to work out on that end-to-end value chain as a product offering to the business model of our dealerships, to adding the total to reducing the total cost of ownership of our end customers, thereby also helping us making the brand the most preferred.
Okay, would you like to highlight something specific about the product? I do recall you mentioning about these machines are built on modular platform. So can you explain a little more about this concept?
Okay, these machines are actually built on a modular platform. By modular, we mean that most of the spare parts are standardized. I mean to say that from a 16-meter boom lift, considering one product line of 16-meter boom lift to the 44-meter boom lift, most of the parts are standardized. So now I will have to, if there is a service required training for a customer who wants a fleet of boom lifts for me, I would train the customer only on one boom lift, with which he will be able to manage the entire fleet, because most of the parts is the same. Stocking of spare parts as an inventory is reduced, and it becomes more viable for him, because the total cost of ownership when it comes to maintenance and the downtime of the machine is totally reduced. So he will not have to spare too much of a time on understanding why the machine has gone down, what spare parts to procure, what to maintain, than just understanding and moving further with utilization of the machine without a headache, saying that okay, let me continue to utilize this as it goes, because it's been completely backed up by intelligence that goes behind.
You were mentioning about the total cost of ownership because of the modular nature, modular platform. So basically, I mean, in another words, can we say that the parts are basically interchangeable amongst a range of products in a particular series of machine?
Yes, I wouldn't call it is interchangeable, but what I would also like to add that is most of these parts are standardized parts,
Okay.
okay, and they are world-class parts. They are not parts manufactured or substandard in quality, but yes, they are standard global approved products or parts that are utilized in the machine. But what makes these machines more reliable and durable is the way it is built. So what happens is a technology that we add something called as a counterweight. The entire weight of the machine is on the ground. The boom lift is made only of the kind of special steel that we have, which makes the boom lift lighter. The machine is more sturdier on the ground, making the foundation strong. though the machine is lighter, becomes a lesser on the transportation cost, but still very effective because the way these machines are built are on a lot of thoughts that have gone in to improvise these machines in adding technology to it, and R&D is obviously playing a major role.
Fantastic. Great. Mr. Sachin, thank you so much for being with us today. I think you really gave a lot of insight to this particular product. I personally have learned a lot of things. I had not really got an exposure about this concept and the product. So thank you for that. And I think we will definitely in future again have conversation to understand how this concept could be actually spread across to a wider audience who might be interested in this concept of trying to invest. That's obviously that is a matter of another time to take this discussion forward. But for today, thank you so much for being with us and explaining us about the concept and the market and Dingley. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was indeed a pleasure and a privilege talking to you, Mr. Ji. I look forward for some healthier, more conversations in the near future.
Thank you.